Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to West Palm Beach. Thank you for joining us today on this beautiful day in West Palm Beach at our Gold Star Families Memorial here in West Palm Beach. I'm Terry Rizzo, and I am the proud chair of the Florida Democratic Party. And I'm here and happy to welcome Mayor Pete Buttigieg to the Sunshine State and my home county, our home county, Palm Beach County. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Congresswoman Lois Frankel, and also former national security and military officials will be with us today. Major General Andrew Turley, Representative Matt Wilhite, and Ben Lubin, and will be joining us today to talk about the importance of this election and why it's so important to elect Joe Biden. We are less than 1 week away from the most important election in our country's history. And whoever wins Florida is almost certain to win the Electoral College and be our next president, which means that the electability and the power to dictate the future of our country and our democracy right here in Palm Beach County. And that is why it is so important that we turn out in unprecedented numbers for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and our ticket. Am I right? You don't have to wait till Election Day to vote for Joe. You can vote today here in Florida. And I urge every single one of you to pick a time on your calendar when you will go vote. Make a plan. Don't wait until it's too late. The stakes are too high for all of us. We have to participate in the process so our voices are heard and heard loudly and clearly. If you have already voted, that's absolutely terrific. Go get more people to vote also. Urge every single person you know to cast their ballot and make their voices heard. If you have an unvoted vote by mail ballot, don't put it in the mails because it's too late. Take it to a drop box at an early voting location here in Palm Beach County and around the state. Make sure that they are deposited in these safe drop boxes or at supervisors of elections offices, but go drop them off. Or you can vote in person. You can early vote in person today through Sunday here in Palm Beach County, through Saturday in some of the other counties around the state, but you can vote in person or at your precinct on Election Day. Wherever you vote, however you vote, make sure you vote and go to iwillvote.com to make your plan. At the polls, you have to vote, make our voices heard, and vote for Joe Biden and our Democratic slate up and down the ballot to bring real change to our state and our country and the world. So thank you all so very much for joining us today on this wonderful day. And with us, I'd like to introduce our state representative, Matt Wilhite from State House District 86, who is also a proud Navy veteran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for those kind remarks. Thank you, everybody, for being here in West Palm Beach. What a beautiful day it is. Mayor Pete, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing for us Democrats. At a point of personal privilege, I know that my wife in the front here would like to say thank you for coming here. Huge fan of Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and it's an honor. She was born a mile up the road here at Good Sam, but to have you right here in her hometown is just phenomenal, so thank you. Madam Chair, thank you. My name is Matt Wilhite. I'm a state representative representing the 86th District in the Florida House, part of West Palm Beach, moving west through to Wellington. But beyond that, I also serve as a captain with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I'm fulfilling my 25th year right now with them, and I'm in my 12th year of elected office. And I know other members here that are going to speak, and myself and the Mayor Pete know that when we raised our right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, by the way, my mask is of the Constitution. That's what is so paramount in this election. We stand by this Constitution, but those that support and fight for it know how important it is. But someone in the White House right now doesn't know that. He's never worn a uniform. He's never fought. Actually, he fought 5 times to get out of fighting. I wish he fought so hard for all of us, let alone all the members in uniform. Now, he talks a game when he's on TV about how he supports them. But when he mocks people like John McCain, when he talks about knowing more than the generals about what people and military families need, he doesn't know service. He got elected to represent all of us, but to represent our military as well. And so I just continue to fight and serve the community that I love. And I know you do too, Mayor Pete, and you understand how important this election is. It's not just about casting a ballot and putting your name on there and saying I voted. It's about the character of our country. It's about the national security of our country. It's about what we say to the rest of our future generations about we as a country and what we're going to do and what we represent. And so I just can't ask you enough to go out if you haven't already voted. I hope that you already have voted. Whether you did it in person, whether you sent your ballot in the mail, or whether you're going to go on election day like Tuesday like I am, and you're going to proudly cast your ballot. I was at the precinct yesterday, and I can't tell you how many young people, first-time voters, were just cheering as they voted for the first time. To get new voters out because they understand that their future is on the line in this election. And so hopefully here on November 3rd, we will elect Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, and Senator Kamala Harris to be the 46th President of the United States of America. Next, I'd like to introduce a man that has such a long distinguished service and record, I can't even tell you how long it is. But Major General Turley has held numerous positions, and for 27 years as well, supported and fought for this country and defended our Constitution. Major General, please join us.
Thank you. My name is Andy Turley, and I had the distinction of serving for more than 27 years in the Air Force and also as a civilian attorney in a number of positions, both at the White House and at the Pentagon. Throughout my career, like many others and many of my colleagues, we served because public service is a public trust. We were not involved with politics. We were involved with service. Our generals, admirals, ambassadors, and senior national security leaders have avoided involvement in politics since their retirement. Sadly, we have been dismayed and disheartened by this administration's assault on our current institutions, decline in honesty and integrity, and loss of values-based and principled leadership. It prompted us to get together. We issued a letter on September 23rd with 498 of us who had a strong endorsement and an unqualified endorsement of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the hope of our nation. This is why I'm actively and openly supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Leadership matters. Confronting issues head-on and finding solutions. Values matter. Experience matters. Honesty and integrity matter. Words matter. Joe Biden brings all of this and more to the office of the presidency. He understands that leadership about our nation and our people is about protecting our people from the scourge of the coronavirus, not turning his back on it. Yet this administration has turned its back on our nation and its people. For its own self-interests and purposes, this conduct has amounted to a derogation of the public trust that we must restore. You know, I'm a former judge advocate, a military lawyer, and for years, a key element of our international work has been rule of law initiatives in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in developing countries, in the Middle East. I never thought that I would have to worry about compliance with the rule of law with my own nation. Yet we have an administration that has waged war on its very own government, brazenly and blatantly disregarding laws, norms, and values that are not convenient to them. Laws like the Hatch Act, designed to keep a strong barrier between politics and service. Laws like the federal ethics rules, designed to ensure federal employees truly live up to the principle that public service is a public trust. Laws like the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, designed to ensure senior appointments, which has been violated time and again by continuing so many people in acting positions. We have a chief of staff that says no one cares about the Hatch Act. We have a former presidential advisor who scoffs at reports of her repeated violations. We have a president who uses our military as props for a photo op, and who berates soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen as suckers and losers for being killed defending our nation, who mocks those with serious injuries, saying that our wounded warriors should not be allowed to march in parades. They are the most patriotic of all. I had the chance to work with many of them and meet many of them at Walter Reed and elsewhere. Our allies have been the key to our success from World War II onward. This administration has made our nation less safe by treating them with disdain and coddling autocrats who would do us harm, and remain silent when our enemies place bounties on the heads of our military. Joe Biden says we need to build back better, and I agree with that. But this is true not just for our economy, but for our position in the world. We must build back faith and trust in the United States by reaching out to our allies, opposing our rivals on the world stage, and reestablishing the United States not just a military and economic authority, but a moral authority as well. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will do this. This is why I and now 700 of my fellow generals, admirals, and senior national security leaders have broken with the tradition of staying out of partisan politics, even in retirement, to make our voices heard. We could remain silent no longer. It's not a matter of politics. It's a matter of patriotism. And we feel so strongly about this. We are so enthusiastic about Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris on becoming the next administration. They are our hope for the future. And please join me. I voted for them, and I encourage all of you to do so too. It's now my pleasure to introduce Ben Lubin, who's the son of Congresswoman Frankel and a veteran. He's a native of West Palm Beach and served as a U.S. Marine, a fellow veteran, and also worked for USAID on a number of development projects over in the Middle East. Great work. Ben is a veteran of both the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He's the owner of the Blind Monk, a local wine bar in downtown West Palm Beach that has opened in August of 2010. He's a graduate of the University of Florida, Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs, the French Culinary Institute, and a great distinction is a certified sommelier. Please join me in welcoming Ben Lubin.
Thank you, General. My name is Ben Lubin. I was born and raised in West Palm Beach. A graduate of Suncoast Community High School, the University of Florida. Went on to study international affairs at Columbia. I was in the Marines, and I deployed to Iraq with 4th Anglico from here in West Palm Beach. I continued my service after leaving the Marine Corps with the United States Agency for International Development, where I managed foreign assistance programs in Afghanistan, in Syria, and in Somalia, all in support of U.S. foreign policy objectives and our national security. And I'm a small business owner. I've owned a business here for 10 years in downtown West Palm Beach. I joined the Marine Corps because I believe in service. I believe in duty, that I have a responsibility to do my part to protect our rights, our freedoms, our opportunities that we have seen this president attempt to destabilize, delegitimize, and destroy the institutions that are the foundation of our democracy. Integrity, honor, courage, commitment, these are the values that drive military men and women. But when we needed leadership in these trying times, our commander-in-chief demonstrated weakness, pettiness, cowardice, ineptitude, and naked self-interest. When we needed a president to unite us in these trying times, we got Donald Trump, who divided us through lies and propaganda and race baiting. We deserve more as the United States of America. That's why I'm voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who have the integrity, the temperament, the courage, and the compassion to lead us through these troubling times. So vote. Make a plan to vote, and vote early, because the stakes are the highest they've been in our lifetime. And with that, I have the special honor of introducing my mom, our former mayor, our current congresswoman, and the low to my son, Lois Frankel.
Yes? Okay, here we go. Thank you, Ben. So it's so good to be with you, Mayor Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg. I'm going to get it right. Buttigieg, right? Mayor Pete. I'm calling him Mayor Pete. All right? General Turley, State Rep Will Hite, Terry Rizzo, and of course, my beautiful son. Today, I am here as the mother of a Marine. And I want to thank Mayor Moyo for this beautiful memorial that we have here in the city. And thank all the veterans who are here today for their service. You know, when people ask me what I'm most proud of in my life, it's not a bill or a cause I championed. It's the young man I raised to be a patriot, to risk everything to serve his country. Thank you so much, Ben. Love you. You know, I'm also the daughter of a Coast Guardman, a chief petty officer, who often shared his stories with me and my brother. And when my father passed, I hung his old Coast Guard uniform in my son's closet among his blue jeans and his Little League uniforms. And maybe it's just a coincidence, but 10 years after my dad died, my son announced to me he was joining the Marines and would spend weekends and summers until training until college graduation. I admit I was stunned by his decision. I was frightened. But when he explained it was his duty to give back to this country, my overwhelming emotion was pride. My son was going to be a United States Marine. And it was when Ben started his military journey that I gained a whole new insight, not only into the character of our brave service heroes, but the consequences to their families. And I saw my son growing with confidence and maturity, and just right here on the waterfront, when I took him to his first fireworks here, he was so frightened he cried, and yet he grew to be a field artillery officer that protected his base in Afghanistan. I remember his graduation from Officer Candidate School at Quantico. I was sitting on the bleachers with all the other families watching their children be inducted as first lieutenants. And what struck me from the distance was that all the graduates looked the same. I couldn't pick out my son. He was now a member of a team that would never leave anyone behind, except, of course, his parents, as he often disappeared on assignments for months over the next 8 years. And he was sent to war first in Afghanistan and then in Iraq. And I learned what it was like to pray every day that there would be no knock on the door. And I'm blessed my son came home safe and sound, but not every family I sat with at Quantico was so fortunate. And I watched his adjustment to civilian life, and it wasn't easy, but we were lucky. He became, obviously you see him today, a successful small business owner, a loving father. But not all families are so blessed. Too many of our veterans come home disabled. They find themselves homeless or suicidal. Spouses left alone, parents brokenhearted. And I said today, I'm talking not as your congresswoman, but as the mother of a brave Marine. It's not enough to just thank these men and women who are willing to sacrifice, and not just enough to thank their families who have sacrificed. It's our responsibility to make sure that our servicemen and women and veterans and their families have a commander-in-chief that will protect and respect them, not think of them as suckers. And it also means protecting them from the current deadly enemy, and that is COVID-19. And we've seen outbreaks on military bases, on a Navy ship, and even our Joint Chiefs of Staffs were infected and forced to isolate. As parents of a son who was sent to Iraq, Joe and Jill Biden understand the seriousness of this promise to our servicemen and women. And I know that Joe Biden will take this responsibility seriously, pretend it doesn't exist. So here's our duty. Our duty right now is to vote. Vote early, or if you want to be there on Election Day, make a plan how you're going to do that, because voting is easier than ever before. We have the power to decide this election right here in Florida the power to really determine the direction of our country and even the world in the next 4 years. So let's do it. And now, I have the extreme pleasure and honor to introduce another veteran, a member of that very exclusive mayor's club. He's the former two-time mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Oh boy, another Ivy Leaguer, Pete, a graduate of Harvard University and Oxford Rhodes Scholar. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy Reserve and became a lieutenant when he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014. Of course, we know him as one of the shining stars of the 2020 presidential campaign. Mayor Pete, welcome to West Palm Beach.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Literally the warm welcome. It's not like this where I live. Thank you, Congresswoman, for your leadership. The more mayors we can get in Washington, D.C., the better a place I think that'll be. Thank you, Ben, for your service and for also the leap of faith that it represents to open a small business that's powering this community. Thank you, General. It is not a small thing for a flag officer to come off the sidelines, and yet throughout this visit to Florida, I've seen so many of your fellow senior officers who said, this far but no further, we got to speak up, and I thank you for your courage in doing so. Thank you, Chair, for the fantastic work that the Florida Democratic Party is doing. Mayor Moyo, it's great to be reunited. We traveled together on a delegation of mayors to the Middle East, I want to acknowledge what a great thing it is that you set up this memorial here in the heart of the city to Gold Star families. And I'm told there may be some among us right now who got that knock on the door. And I want you to know that our nation can never repay the debt that it owes to you for what your family has sacrificed and given. But the best we can do is to do right by the country that you and your loved ones gave so much to build and protect. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. When I go to Section 60 in Arlington National Cemetery, a place where people I know are beneath those blades of grass, and I think about the total fortune and chance that means that I'm on this side of the earth and they're on the other side of it, all I can think of is the obligation that creates to do right by them, the obligation for us who remain to make sure this is paid to secure it. And we have a chance to do that. We have a chance to do that right now. The President of the United States swears an oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And yet, our President has referred to those who put everything on the line for that defense as losers, as suckers. A way of thinking that I think traces all the way back to when he was a young son of a millionaire and thought to himself, I'm going to get some excuse made so that some sucker can go in my place to Vietnam. It's just how he thinks about the world. And unfortunately, we have not had a president, even as a matter of policy, never mind as a matter of character, who's ready to defend us from the threats that we face. A president who stood side by side with the president of Russia, who we have since learned was offering bounties on the heads of U.S. troops. And that he trusted him rather than the U.S. personnel when it came to assessments about Russian interference. We deserve better. But to that list of enemies, foreign and domestic, I would add microscopic. And we are now facing another enemy. A virus that is not visible to the naked eye, but that is spreading through our communities, creating one of the 5 worst mass casualty events in U.S. history. And the president says, don't worry about it. He says, it'll go away magically. He said it'll be like a miracle. He said that we're turning the corner. He said that we should be testing less. That way there won't be as many cases, and he'll look better. This is the kind of leadership that we have right now. America deserves better, and lives are on the line. Now, one saying that is common in the military And I'm glad, by the way, there's finally some Navy folks here, because they've been throwing a lot of folks from the other branches my way. So thank you, State Representative, for your service, really 3 times over, serving in state office, serving as a first responder, active duty, and your service in the finest of the branches, the U.S. Navy. We're so glad that you're serving as you are, and I'm glad I'm not the only squid around here. But one of the things we would always say, of course, when we were done teasing each other about our little rivalries, is one team, one fight. We are all in this together. And that's how it feels right now being part of this Biden-Harris team. No matter who you supported in the primary. Maybe you supported me. Maybe you supported, and thanks if you did. Maybe you supported one of the other 20 or so candidates who were running. But now we're coming together. And the beautiful thing is it's not even just the lifelong Democrats and the various enthusiastic Democratic campaigns that were part of this. We have independents. We have a remarkable number of Republicans. Cindy McCain, reminding us that you can either be a John McCain Republican or you can be a Donald Trump Republican, but you cannot be both. You got to choose right now. And that's why so many John McCain Republicans are saying, I'm for Joe Biden this time around. And we welcome them into this coalition. Because all of us are in this together, and this has gotten to be so much bigger than party. This is about who we are. This is about coming together. You know, the general was, among his other leadership responsibilities, part of a classic military alphabet soup thing called JIEDO, which I can't even remember all the letters stand for, but the middle part is IED, Improvised Explosive Devices. He was part of a command that was dealing with those. Those IEDs were a threat to us every time we got into a vehicle when we were downrange. And every time I got into a vehicle, which happened about 100 times that it just fell to me to drive from point A to point B. We called it military Uber. Get somebody around Kabul or Bagram or wherever we were going. The people getting into the vehicle next to me didn't care if I was a Republican or a Democrat. They didn't care if I was going home to a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They didn't care what country my father immigrated from. They just wanted to know if I could do my job and if we could trust each other with our lives, and we did every time. That's the spirit that we need to bring with us now, trusting one another with our lives, because just like a unit downrange, this whole country is facing the pressure of circumstance, grave danger, and with it an opportunity to pull together and get something different done. So I'm not just here because of who we're up against, although I think the shameful words and actions of this president ought to be reason enough. But I'm here because of who we're for. When Joe Biden is, we're for a better future. When Joe Biden is president, we won't have a president trying to pretend he cares about military families, because the Bidens are a military family. They know exactly what it's like to hug a loved one before he gets on a gray tail plane to take you downrange. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in office, we will have people who understand that we need to expand health care, not take it away like this president's fighting to do in court as we speak. We will have people in those offices who understand that a good economy is not one where billionaires are adding to their billions. It's one where everybody is able to get a good job and keep it and get ahead, and where one job is enough. Wouldn't it be nice to live in a country where we all knew that was true? That's what we have a chance to deliver right now. We have a chance to have an administration that deals with scientific and medical questions by listening to what scientists and doctors have to tell us, and knows that climate change is real and threatens our communities, whether they're coastal cities like this or river cities like mine or anywhere in between. This is our opportunity to get the kind of leadership that might bring this country together, to support our communities, our schools, our families. A president who understands what it means to watch rights come up for debate for those of us whose marriages exist only by the grace of a single vote on the United States Supreme Court, and who knows that everybody ought to be equal, which is why an Equality Act will be passed and signed by President Joe Biden. Someone who understands the value of our educators and will support them with the Secretary of Education who actually believes in public education. Somebody who knows that in addition to our public health crisis and our economic crisis and our international crises, we have a moral crisis here in the United States when it comes to racial justice, and need a president who doesn't tell white supremacist groups to stand by, but rather is unafraid to state the simple truth that Black lives matter. Now, here we are at this pivotal moment. And I told the Biden-Harris campaign when I said I was going to support them that they could send me anywhere they needed me. Not knowing that meant being on Fox News quite as often as it has lately, but that's where I'm needed, that's where I'll go. I didn't know it would mean venturing into a place I'm deeply uncomfortable, which is the mind of Mike Pence when they asked me to represent him in debate practice for Senator Harris. But that was where I was needed. And of all the places, when I said, send me anywhere, these critical last few days going into the election, they said, go to West Palm. Because we know there are votes still out there. We know how strong the support is around here, but look, the numbers, the encouraging poll numbers that we see showing Joe Biden winning, they're great, but they're just numbers until people actually vote. And we need to get that message out that if you got that mail ballot, you got to walk it in, drop it off in person, so we make sure it gets counted. That whether you're doing it early, and we're going to encourage everybody to take advantage of that early vote, or whether you're doing it in person on Election Day, that you get out that vote because it is so important. And we know there are folks that are friends of ours, maybe people we served with, who voted Republican all their lives, but they know not to do it this time around. We've got to let them know they're welcome in this coalition. But we've also got to reach out to those who are still deciding whether to vote. They're just not sure it matters. They're frustrated, turned off by the system and the abuses we've seen. We've got to let them know your vote is your moment of maximum power. We got to get that message out. Su voz es tan importante que todos votan en esta elección. All of us need to be standing as one. And when we do, we're going to be able to actually look back with pride on this year. I know that's a strange thing to say, because the thing about 2020 is it sucks. But the other thing about 2020 is it's not over. The story of 2020 has not yet been written, and we together are writing the last and most important chapter in the story of 2020. So thank you for what you're doing to get out to vote, to write that new and brighter chapter, and to make this a moment we're all proud of. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get out there, stay after it, stay safe, stay motivated, and let's make sure we're celebrating next week. Thank you.